Okay, welcome back. My name's Newman. We're going to check out orchids in the monsoon or summer season with high 80 to 95% humidity, rain. Things don't dry out, they're moist all the time. Should your orchids be rotting? I'm going to answer the question right now. You can see that powdery stuff on the surface there. That is dolomite lime. Let me get into the bag for you. You should be looking for this grade. Can you see that? It's like powder. So you don't want the gritty stuff that's not properly ground down into a fine powder. You want this fine powder. And then you have this. It is 1 gram. You put 1 gram, about 1 gram, and you sprinkle it in there. And it helps with your pH. It keeps the pH about 6.5, which is a good pH that enables the orchid to put its roots back into your media, to grow bigger and better roots, to take up other trace elements. And magnesium is the building blocks of all life. It builds cell walls in the leaves, and without it, a plant getting other trace elements, nitrogen and phosphorus, potassium and whatever, will be building up the leaves and not completing it. It's kind of like your calcium. The calciums that you get in your body, or the other essential trace elements, like for instance vitamin D, that's responsible for your nails and your teeth and your hair. Well, just think of it like that. All orchids that we culture are growing in moss and bark, and it's no longer a living organism. It's been taken off, processed, and it's dead. Okay, you put it in the pot with your orchid, and then along comes the monsoon season where everything should be growing and thriving, just like your garden. If you look at your garden, even things that are in well draining mix, they're getting plenty of water, right? They're moist. Why is the orchid rotting? The media becomes acidic really fast because it's not living anymore. And because of that, you got to add things to it to keep the pH right. And in Mother Nature, orchids grow attached to trees, and they get all of these trace elements. And if they're attached to rock, lithophytic orchids, they get a good amount of magnesium through the lime, through the rock. Trees, ones that are growing on trees that you wouldn't think get magnesium or lime are still getting it. It is present in the rainwater in little amounts, although it's very hard for rainwater to draw up salts. So the orchid would have it probably delivered in dead snails and crustaceans. They would have probably magnesium in them. And you must apply this. This is my Cattleya. My Cattleyas don't rot, not the ones that I've been looking after. When they arrive to me in good health, they get healthier. Nice new bulb growing up here. The medium is moist to wet. Well, last night it was nice and wet in there. There is no rot going on. This is Cattleya Blue Heaven. There's no rot going on. There won't be any rot going on because I add dolomite lime. The applications of fertilizer plus the medium rotting makes the acidic properties go even higher. Now, once you add your dolomite lime and the 1 gram, don't do it for another 3 months. That'll be enough. If you keep applying it month after month, it'll become alkaline, which is another blocker. It'll block out all of its ability to draw up micronutrients, and the root system won't like it at all. How do you know if your orchids need it? They get black rot. You water them, and especially if they're in terracotta like this one, right? And it's getting plenty of water and it's draining out. It shouldn't rot. Doesn't make sense. Not all cattleyas come from a dry seasonal environment. Take for instance Cattleya auricolor, comes from the eastern Himalayas of Peru and Ecuador, and it grows at high altitudes of 1,000 or more meters above sea level. And if you ever travel or go to such a place, nothing is going to dry out there. Nothing is going to dry out. It's moist all the time. It grows in amongst tillandsias and bromeliads and all sorts of other epiphytic plants. And it is super moist, and it's growing in moist moss. It's all over the trees, and at times the moss is dangling from trees because it's so moist there that it can actually dangle like a vine. And at that time there's no problems with the pH going out of whack, going acidic or whatever like this, because everything is alive and humming with life, and the Cattleya is attached to a tree that's alive. And these trees, if you didn't take note, is that you will usually read up about certain orchids like certain trees. I can almost guarantee that that tree has got a lot of fungal, it's got a lot of built-up immune properties in its resin or its sap, able to fight off fungus and bacteria and pests. And as that exudes from the trees, the rain and the water mixes with it, and it trickles down to the orchid, and the orchid gets it. It gets a natural fungicide. That is why that you will notice that some orchids just stick to particular kinds of trees and not others. There's no way they're going to grow on the canopy or branches of a tree that's infected with fungus or has fungus problems. It will most probably drop all of its fungal spores onto the orchid and cause it trouble to survive. Okay, so why do we apply it again? Because we're not growing in a medium that's alive anymore. And I remember asking somebody why your orchids are not doing well on your mounts. Why not? Doesn't make sense to me. It was stated that it was an environmental problem. It's too cool. It's not warm enough. It actually is warm enough. It was about 25 degrees, which is 80 Fahrenheit. They grow high altitude, and even if you go high altitude here in Japan, it's about 25 degrees. It's actually cool. You're not going to sweat or anything. It's cool, but everything's moist. So that answers that one. And my answer to that I got about the growing medium wasn't a good one, wasn't what I wanted. Didn't make sense to me, because it doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't it thrive? You're doing everything exactly the same, except that you've got a pH problem, and then you have to adjust it because you're not growing naturally. That is a bulbophyllum japonicum, and it's mounted onto this wood, and it's got that moss. See that moss? It can go all acidic because I'm watering it and giving it very, very slight, very low amount of liquid feed. That orchid would just go dormant. It doesn't make sense. It's not growing. It's the pH. Don't ignore the pH. You ignore it, you're going to get black rot. Cattleyas get black rot in the leaf tips and the bulbs. If you've got them growing in a terracotta pot with lava rock and everything like that, they're not going to rot. There's no chance at all. Then as you approach into the winter time, you don't get as much rain, right? Florida does, but then it's a warmer climate, so why would it rot the orchid? Doesn't make sense. The orchid goes into growth mode when it's getting more water, cattleyas. Even if it's native to a environment that has a very, very dry season, that can be 4 months with little to no rain. Even those orchids would benefit from the extra water during the growing season. Although you should follow directions if you are cattleyas from an area that needs a dry rest. Give it one, because it's adapted to that environment. Adaptation isn't always what something likes. It's a survival technique that makes it able to reproduce and be successful in an area without too much competition. That's a survival technique. You can't mistake it for something that they love. There's no way that they love to dry out and wrinkle and almost die. What kind of a plant likes that? That's a survival technique. They are able to survive and prosper for that reason, so that they dominate a landscape in one area and they can reproduce in it. But I'm pretty sure that if you give them better and more water during the growing season, they will take it up and they will grow happily. Now, if that doesn't make sense, then leave me a message so I can answer it for you. And as you can see here, everything is growing fine and well. I don't have anything. I've never had any black leaf tip or any problems like that. Okay, so the dolomite lime's been applied for the next 3 months. It'll help keep that pH around 6, 6.5. If you didn't do it, your medium would drop right down to 4 or 3. Acidy, terrible acidy. The plant will rot. Give you those black leaves on the tips. Alkaline, well, that's caused by an over-application of magnesium. So be careful when you're using Epsom salts and all of that. You can actually over-apply them and blow that pH out of the water. Why is pH important? It's like your taste buds. When you go to the restaurant, you don't want a mouthful of lemons and you don't want a mouthful of chalk. Alright, because if you were to eat something too acidic non-stop or too alkaline non-stop, your enzymes in your stomach will go out of balance. You'll have diarrhea, you'll have a white tongue, you'll have fungus in your mouth. It's true, you will have that. You have trouble digesting minerals. If you drink excessive alcohol, it's a blocker on minerals. It's just an example. So keeping that pH normal enables orchids to grow happily because they love the nice sweet soil of 6, 6.5. And you have nice happy results. Anyway, that's all from me. If you want to know more about this, and if you're curious, leave me a message, because I like talking about how to make orchids grow better and nicer, and it's part of what's amazing about nature. So maybe you got even better knowledge than I have. Give it to me. I need it to make my orchids even healthier than last time. Not to forget, I lost one. Let's go down here. This thing is going to die. And it's not my fault. I bought a lot of these cattleyas that were in poor health, and I haven't been able to get them back into health no matter what I've done. Their medium was very acidic. They were watered with tap water in the nursery. I bought it for its flowers, and it's been declining and declining, and I haven't been able to get it out of its bad health. This particular one, this big, massive, beautiful thing, is one that I've been growing, and when I bought it, it was healthy enough, and I repotted it, and I did have some rot issues because it was not in good health. ever since then I've had it. It puts out multiple new growths. It's growing in pumice and bark, and I water a lot with a hose every evening during this hot temperature that's 95 Fahrenheit, which is about 35, 37 degrees during the day. Nights get down to about 25, 26, which is 80, 85. Super healthy, no problems at all. All of the green leaves, look. Okay, just thought I'd show you that. And they get watered, okay? Don't let them dry out too much. This one here is doing much better. Had one rotted bulb, thank goodness. It's been putting out all this new growth. It has more on the way. I think that this will be a success, and it's taken a long time. I don't know if you can see around there, but right in there you can see a new one growing, and these are relatively new, but they're smaller than the last growth because it was stressed out. It was growing in the medium that had gone acidic, right? They didn't do anything to right the pH. Everything rotting away in there as they keep watering it, and blocks out all the ability for it to take up nutrients and everything. But looking at the new leaves, they're green, right? The bulbs are still fine. Fingers crossed that it just keeps growing and keeps producing new bulbs, and if it does that, I'm going to have lots of flowers and a healthy plant. But to bounce it back from all of that damage from the pH problem, geez, it takes a long time. Yep, sometimes you just worry yourself all the time about it, but you can't. You can just do what you can and check it to make sure, but don't worry. You know, if you're doing everything right, like I've said, then it should be fine. If it isn't, it's not your fault. It's just a poor health plant. Water, municipal water or faucet water in Japan is soft. Softer meaning that the landscape and mountains and everything in Japan, the water rushes through it really, really quickly. It's not able to hang around or sit to absorb hard minerals like iron and magnesium and stuff like that. So in that case, the water goes into the municipal faucet water is soft, so it doesn't have all of those hard minerals. You're able to water from the tap, from the hose. Just thought I'd say that, in case you're wondering. I'm watering with a hose. Am I going to kill them? If you're living in the States, in a lot of those places that has hard water, you might have to have well water to water with. Otherwise you're going to be adding so many hard minerals that it's going to get very acidy in your mix. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this interesting. Send me a mail so that we can talk about it further. And until next time, bye bye.